Hey guys, tonight we're clocking in behind the chair at a 1950s American beauty salon, a place that looked like a pastel daydream and ran on rotten egg fumes, aching feet, and more secrets than the local church. Not with glamour, not with elegance, not with the soft focus magazine version you're picturing. No, with ammonia, backcombing, and a metal dome that cooked your head for an hour while you read about movie stars. I'm really glad you decided to spend tonight here, and that you'll let this channel hum away in the background while you fall asleep. If the voice does its job, tapping that subscribe button quietly keeps the lights on in the shop. And if the night is quiet where you are, I'd love to know your corner of the world, and whether anyone in your family ever came home smelling faintly of a fresh perm. Now settle in, lights low, blanket up, maybe rest your head on something softer than a hood dryer for once. Ever wonder how women survive 2 hours a week trapped under a humming metal helmet? Why the whole point of a fancy hairdo was to never wash it again? What a perm actually smelled like? And why anyone signed up for it twice? Could you pass a written state exam just to be allowed to touch a stranger's hair? Did the operator really know every secret on the street? And who, exactly, taught the entire country that dyeing your hair was nobody's business but the bottles? Congratulations. It is 1955. You are standing in a small-town beauty shop in America, and you are the operator. Your feet already hurt and the shop is not even open. Your hands smell of yesterday's chemicals. Your first regular is never late, and there are 4 women about to want the exact same hairstyle as a film star who has a wind machine and you do not. Good luck. You unlock the shop at 8, and the day has already decided what it will be. Your first standing appointment is at past, and she is never late, which means you are never early enough. You flip on the hood dryers to warm them, run the water until it stops smelling of pipe, and check that every station has its combs, its clips, its bottles in the right order. The bell over the door has not rung yet. For exactly 20 minutes, the shop is yours, quiet, and pretending it will stay that way. The dryers come awake one by one, a low row of pastel domes humming up to temperature like a family of appliances clearing their throats. You wipe the mirrors, which is pointless, because by noon they will be fogged with spray again, but a clean mirror is a promise to the first client that today will go well. You line the combs up, you shake the setting lotion. You count the rollers on the tray, sorted by size and colour, points one way and heads the other, the way you sort everything now, even your own thoughts. The coffee goes on. It is bad coffee, the kind that tastes faintly of the can it came in, but it is hot and it is yours, and it is the last thing you will do slowly for the next 10 hours. You drink half of it standing up. You will not finish the other half. You never do. The cup will sit forgotten on the back counter, going cold and forming a small skin, a tiny monument to your optimism every single morning. Mrs. Delacroix arrives at 29 past, which is her way of being early without admitting it. She lets herself in before you have flipped the sign, because after 11 years she is less of a customer and more of a weather system. She hangs her coat on the hook that has become her hook. She sits in the chair that has become her chair. She tells you, as she does every Thursday, that she does not want anything dramatic, and then she describes something dramatic. You drape her, snap the paper strip around her neck, and tilt her back toward the bowl. The shop is no longer pretending. The day has officially started, and it started, as it always does, with someone who knew you before you opened the door. Outside, the street is waking up too, the grocer rolling up his awning, a bus sighing past. But in here, the only news that matters is whatever Mrs. Delacroix heard at her sister's on Sunday. There is a particular piece to being the first hands of the morning. The water is fresh, the towels are dry, your back does not hurt yet, and nobody has yet asked you to make them look like a woman in a magazine. The first set of the day is almost a pleasure, the way the first stare is almost a pleasure before you remember there are 40 more. You work the lather through her hair, and she sighs the way people only sigh when someone else is washing their head. It is a small thing, this sigh, but it is half of why the shop exists. The other half is that her bouffant will not survive the week on its own, and the kitchen sink at home is no match for what the look requires. Both halves pay the rent. By the time you tip her upright, towel turbaned and dripping slightly down one temple, 2 more women are coming up the sidewalk, and the quiet is gone for good. You glance at the cold coffee. You glance at the clock. The day is only 20 minutes old, and it is already running ahead of you, the way it will keep running until you flip the sign back the other way long after dark. You are not allowed to touch a stranger's hair until the state says so, and the state says so only after a written test and a practical one. You sit in a room with other terrified women and a panel of examiners who have clearly never enjoyed a single day of their lives. You answer questions about scalp anatomy and sanitation law. Then you set a live model's hair while a stranger with a clipboard watches your hands and writes things down. Passing means a license. Failing means you wait, and pay, and do it again. The written part is its own small cruelty. You are asked to name the layers of the hair shaft, the bones of the face, the precise dilution of a disinfectant, the diseases of the scalp you must refuse to work on. None of this will come up at the chair, where the actual emergencies are a cowlick with opinions, and a woman who wants volume she does not have the hair to support. But the state does not test for that. The state tests for the things you can write down, because those are the things a clipboard can grade. The practical is worse, because now your hands are on trial. You set a live model, a patient soul, who agreed to be a prop for the afternoon, and you wind every roller as if your future is balanced on it, which it is. The examiner circles you slowly. She is named Miss Pruitt, and she has the warm bedside manner of a parking meter. She leans in to inspect a pin curl, makes a small noise that could mean anything, and writes. You have no idea if the noise was good. The noise is never good. The room is silent, airless, and merciless. You think about all the women who got here the long way, the ones who learned at a kitchen table from an aunt, who can build a flawless wave by feel, and who now have to prove it to a stranger in a fluorescent room. The license does not measure talent. It measures whether you can perform talent on command while being watched, which is a different and crueler skill, like being asked to fall asleep while someone studies your face. There is a logic to it, somewhere under the dread. Hot irons burn, bleach blinds. Perm solution left on too long can take the hair clean off at the root, and a scalp is not a forgiving thing to practice on. The license exists because the tools are genuinely dangerous, and the state would rather you proved you knew that in a room than discovered it on missus. Somebody's head. It is, in its strict and joyless way, a kind of protection. It just does not feel like protection while Miss Pruitt is making the noise. Weeks later the envelope comes. You know before you open it, the way you always know, and then you open it anyway because knowing is not the same as holding the paper. You passed. The relief is enormous and slightly insulting given how sure you secretly were. The license is a flimsy card considering what it cost in nerves and fees, basically a gym membership for an extremely specific gym, and you will frame it because the state requires it to hang where the public can see it, and because you earned the right to be looked at by an inspector. You hang it on the wall by your station, slightly crooked, and step back. There it is. Proof that a panel of people who have never enjoyed a day in their lives have decided you may, legally, touch the public. Every woman who sits in your chair from now on is trusting that little crooked card, and trusting your hands, and mostly trusting that you will not confuse the bleach with the toner. You straighten the frame. You will do this work for 30 years and never take another written test, and you will use almost none of what was on it, except the one part that matters, which is that the tools can hurt, so the hands must not. Before you ever hold a comb that matters, you hold a broom. Your first months in the shop are spent washing other women's hair, sweeping the day's clippings into soft drifts, and standing at the senior operator's elbow ready to pass whatever she barks for. Curlers, pins, perm rods, end papers. You learn the wheeled tray the way a nurse learns a surgical tray, by size and by colour, points one way, heads the other. You are paid almost nothing. You are learning everything. Mostly you are learning to anticipate. The senior operator is named Ruth, and Ruth does not explain. Ruth holds out a hand without looking, fingers open, and you are expected to fill it with exactly the right roller before the hand has finished opening. The first week you guess wrong constantly and she sighs through her nose, a sound like a kettle giving up. By the third week you can read the back of her head. You know from the size of the section she has parted what she will want next, and you have it in her palm before she asks. She still does not thank you. The absence of the kettle sound is the thanks. The broom teaches you more than you expect. You sweep up hair all day, dark, fair and grey, and after a month you can tell whose is whose without looking up, because you have washed all of it. You learn the floor, the corners where clippings hide, the precise angle that gets under the dryer chairs. Sweeping is beneath you, everyone agrees, And yet a clean floor is the first thing the inspector checks and the first thing a new client notices, so the lowest job in the shop is quietly one of the most important. You make peace with the broom. The broom is patient with you in return. At the bowl you learn the part nobody teaches at school, which is how to make a stranger trust your hands. You wash heads all day, dozens of them, and slowly your fingers stop being careful and start being kind, which is different and better. A nervous client relaxes under good hands the way a cat does, against her own better judgment. You learn water temperature by the wrist, lather by feel, the exact pressure that turns a scalp scrub into the best 2 minutes of a tired woman's week. You are not yet allowed to cut. You are allowed to be the reason she keeps coming back, which Ruth would never say out loud. The pay, such as it is, arrives in coins and the occasional folded bill, and it would be insulting if you thought of it as wages. You do not. You think of it as tuition you are somehow being paid instead of charged, which makes you the luckiest broke person in town. You are essentially an unpaid intern with a mop, except the internship ends with a trade that will feed you for life, which is more than most internships can promise. There is a hierarchy in the shop as rigid as anything in a royal court, and you are at the bottom of it. The owner is the crown. The senior operators are the nobility. You are the girl who fetches and sweeps and washes, and you will be that girl until Ruth decides, in her own time, that you are not. There is no ceremony. One slow Tuesday she simply nods at an empty chair and tells you to take the next walk in, a teenager who wants a trim, and your hands shake the whole way through it, and Ruth watches from across the room pretending not to. You finish the trim. It is fine. It is better than fine, and you both know it, and Ruth turns back to her own client without a word. You sweep up the teenager's clippings yourself, out of habit, the broom still fitting your hands. You will keep sweeping for years, long after you are allowed not to, because the lowest job taught you the shape of all the others, and a floor does not clean itself just because you got promoted. You start at the bowl, because everything starts at the bowl. The client leans back, you guide her neck into the porcelain cradle, and you turn the water until it is warm enough to relax her, and not warm enough to scald you both. You lather once, rinse, lather again. Some necks settle into the curve like they were poured for it. Some necks resist, stiff and suspicious, hovering an inch above the basin as if the water has wronged them personally. You work around the neck you are given. You always do. The bowl itself is a marvel of small engineering, a curved porcelain basin with a notch cut for the neck, designed so a woman can lie back without drowning or dignity loss, ideally neither. There is a paper strip first, snapped around the throat to keep the cape and the water off her collar, then the tilt, then the moment of truth, where you discover what kind of neck you are dealing with, which tells you almost everything about what kind of appointment this will be. Mrs. Terlecki has the stiff neck. She arrives every other Friday and never once relaxes into the cradle, holding her head a careful inch off the porcelain through sheer abdominal will, as if surrendering to the basin would be admitting something to it. You cup the back of her skull with one hand and take the weight she refuses to give, your wrist quietly cramping, and you say nothing, because after a while you understand the stiff neck is not about the water. It is about being a woman who has spent 40 years being the one who holds everything up, and who cannot, even here, even now, let a porcelain bowl do it for her. The water is its own negotiation. Too cold and she tenses. Too hot and she yelps, and you have made an enemy for the length of the appointment. You test it on the inside of your wrist the way a mother tests a bottle, and even then you ask, and even then someone always says it is fine and then flinches, because fine is a word people use when they are being polite to their own scalp. You adjust by a degree. There are, by her reckoning, exactly 3 acceptable water temperatures, and she has rejected all of them. The whole job is degrees. Then the lather, and this is where the magic quietly happens. Your fingers move in small circles, and the stiff neck softens. The abdominal will gives up, the inch of resistance closes, and Mrs. Terlecki sinks at last into the cradle she swore she did not need. A scalp massage is the closest thing to free in this shop, and the thing clients remember most, the part that turns a chore into the highlight of the week. You could rush it. You never do. The rinse can be quick. The scrub is sacred. There is a smell to the bowl too, the clean green smell of the shampoo cutting through everything chemical that came before it, the one genuinely pleasant aroma in a shop otherwise built on ammonia, peroxide, and lacquer, For 90 seconds, the perm fumes retreat and it just smells like someone is being taken care of. Then you rinse and turban the towel and tip her upright, and the moment is over, back into the working haze. When Mrs. Teleki sits up, blinking, her stiff neck loose for the first time all fortnight, she does not thank you for the massage, because that would mean admitting it was needed. She says the water was a little warm. You agree that it was. You both know it was perfect. You wrap the towel a touch tighter and walk her to the chair, and her head, just for a moment before she remembers herself, rests easy on her own shoulders, which is the only thank you the bowl ever gets, and which is, quietly, enough. With the hair washed and damp, you comb the setting lotion through and begin the set, which is the part nobody sees and the part that decides everything. You part a section, comb it smooth, and wind it onto a roller, or twist it flat against the scalp into a pin curl pinned tight. Big rollers for soft waves, small rollers for tight curl, and a map in your head of which goes where. The whole head fills with cylinders and clips. You cover it in a net, then you point her toward the dryers. The set is the architecture, and like all architecture, it is invisible when it works and catastrophic when it does not. A client never compliments a set, because she never sees it, sitting under a forest of rollers looking like a switchboard mid-call. She compliments the comb out an hour later, the soft finished wave, and has no idea that the wave was decided right now by the size of roller you chose and the tension you wound it with. Get the foundation wrong and no amount of brilliant comb out can save it. The whole tower stands on the wind. Setting lotion comes first, combed through damp, a faintly sticky liquid that smells of nothing in particular, and dries to a discipline that holds the curl. Then the sectioning, clean parts down the scalp, each one combed smooth before it is wound, because a tangle set into a roller becomes a tangle set into the week. You work in a strict order, crown to nape, the same path every time, because the order is what lets your hands work while your mind wanders to the lunch you will not eat. The rollers themselves are a small civilization on the tray, sorted by size and colour, fat ones for body, slim ones for a tight curl, each waiting in its compartment like a tool that knows its job. You pluck them without looking. You wind a section, roll it to the scalp, pin it, and move on, a rhythm so deep in your hands that you could nearly do it asleep, and on a long Saturday you very nearly are. Wind, roll, pin. Wind, roll, pin. The head fills. Sandra, 16, and getting set for her first real dance, sits very still and watches you in the mirror with enormous suspicious eyes, certain you are about to ruin her life. She wants the soft waves she saw on a record sleeve and does not trust that this scaffolding of plastic could possibly become that. You wind a fat roller at her crown for height and tell her to breathe. She does not breathe. Teenagers never believe the ugly middle of a process produces a beautiful end, which is, you suppose, the entire problem with being 16. Then the pin curls for the spots a roller cannot reach. Flat little coils twisted against the scalp and crossed with a clip, the oldest trick in the trade and still the most precise. Around the hairline, at the nape, behind the ears, where the curl has to be small and exact, the pin curl does what the roller cannot. Your fingers make them almost without thought, a twist and a pinch and a clip, dozens of tiny snails laid in rows. It is fussy, slow and fingertip work, and it is the difference between a good set and a forgettable one. Finally the net, stretched over the whole bristling head to keep it all in place, and you point Sandra toward the dryers looking, briefly, deeply absurd, which she knows, which is why she will not look at the window. You tell her again to breathe, and to trust you, and that in an hour she will not recognize herself. She does not believe a word of it. She sits under the hood radiating doubt. You leave Sandra to dry in the dark under all that plastic, where every good hairdo secretly begins. You have 4 women under 4 hood dryers and all 4 are on different clocks. One is nearly dry and getting restless. One has another half hour and does not believe you. One keeps lifting the hood to talk, which resets her entirely, which you do not have the heart to explain again. The dryers roar so loudly that nobody can hear anyone, so everyone shouts, so the shop sounds like a small, contained windstorm. You move down the row, hand under each hood, checking curls, timing 4 separate futures at once. The hood dryer is the great patient machine of the trade, a metal dome, roughly the size of a small kitchen appliance, lowered over a head of rollers, blowing heat down onto the set until it dries into permanence. It is loud, it is hot, and it is profoundly isolating, sealing each woman into her own private weather. This is why the magazines exist, stacked on the side table, soft and curling at the corners, the only entertainment available to a woman who cannot hear, cannot move, and cannot leave for the next 40 minutes. Under the hood, a woman reads or a woman thinks, and most choose reading. Managing the row is a logistics problem disguised as a beauty service. 4 heads, 4 timers, 4 temperaments, and only one of you. You learn to stagger them so they do not all come due at once, the way a short-order cook stages 4 eggs, because a set that comes out too soon is limp and a set left too long is brittle, and the window for each is maddeningly narrow. You slip a hand under a hood, feel a roller, judge the dampness against the clock in your head, and adjust. Done is a feeling in the fingertips, not a bell. Missus. Okafor is the one who keeps lifting the hood. She does it to deliver a thought she cannot possibly keep to herself for another minute, leaning out into the room to finish a story about her son, and every time she does it, the rush of cool air undoes 30 seconds of drying and she has no idea. You gently press the hood back down, nodding at the story, and she settles, satisfied, having sabotaged herself in the friendliest way imaginable. You add 2 minutes to her clock. You do not tell her why. Some things are kinda left as weather. The heat is genuinely punishing in summer. The row of domes turning your corner of the shop into a small humming oven, the women beneath them fanning their faces, flushed, damp, and resigned. The better salons fitted leg rests, so a client could prop up her feet during the long sit, a small mercy that turned 40 minutes of captivity into something almost like a spa, if a spa were also a kiln. You crack a window. It does nothing. The dryers win every argument with a window. There is a strange democracy under the hoods. A banker's wife and a bus driver's wife sit side by side, equally trapped, equally unable to hear, equally absorbed in the same movie magazine, their rollers identical, their dignity equally suspended. For 40 minutes, status means nothing under the dome. The heat does not care what your husband does. The roar flattens everyone into the same shouting, sweating, page-turning sisterhood, which is, when you think about it, one of the few rooms in town where that is true. Then one comes due, the curls dry and set and ready, and you lift the hood and the noise drops out of her world and she can hear again, blinking like someone surfacing from underwater. You walk her to your chair to begin the comb out, and you slide the next waiting head into the empty dryer, lower the dome, flip the switch, and the windstorm reorganizes itself around a new captive. The row never empties on a good day. You count 4 heads, 4 clocks, 4 futures drying in the heat, and you start the loop again, your own private switchboard of curl. When a perm is on the book, you brace your nose before you brace your hands. You wind the hair onto rods, tissue thin-end papers protecting every tip, and then you apply the waving lotion, and the smell arrives like a houseguest who will not leave. It is sulfur, it is rotten eggs, it is chemistry doing its quiet violence to the bonds inside each strand. You time it carefully, rinse, apply the neutralizer, and unwind. The curl is beautiful. The smell is on your fingers now, and it will stay there for days. The cold wave is a small miracle you have stopped being impressed by. There is no machine, no heat, no terrifying overhead apparatus of clamps and wires like the perms your mother survived. There is only a lotion, applied at room temperature, that talks the hair into a new shape and makes it stay there for months. The chemistry breaks the tiny bonds inside each strand, then a second solution locks them back in the curl. It is, in plain terms, controlled demolition followed by careful reconstruction, performed on a living head by you before lunch. The smell, though. There is no being elegant about the smell. Ammonium thioglycolate does not care that this is a temple of beauty. It announces itself the instant the bottle opens, sulphurous, eggy, and faintly aggressive, filling the shop and curling the noses of everyone not directly profiting from it. It is the smell of 1,000 boiled eggs holding a grudge, and it gets into the towels, the curtains, the coffee, and your husband's dim memory of what you used to smell like. Clients apologize for it as if they invented it. You wave it off. You stopped smelling it years ago, the way a fishmonger stops smelling fish, missus. Bianchi is in for her perm, as she is every 3 months, and she settles in for the long haul because a perm is not a quick favour, it is an afternoon. You wind every section onto its rod, each tip folded into a little end paper so it does not frizz, dozens of rods bristling from her head like she is receiving a transmission from somewhere. Then the lotion, section by section, and the timer, and the waiting, and Mrs. Bianchi reading her magazine inside a cloud of egg while pretending, graciously, that she is at a spa. Timing is everything, and the margin is cruel. Pull the lotion too early and the curl falls limp within a week, a waste of her money and your afternoon. Leave it too long and you have overprocessed the hair into a brittle frizz, or worse, a chemical burn on the scalp that no apology will fix. So you check, and you check again, unwinding one test curl to see how the spring is forming, your whole attention narrowed to the bounce of a single lock. This is the part the license was really for. This is where the tools can hurt. Then the rinse, long and thorough, and the neutralizer, which stops the demolition and sets the new shape in stone, and finally the unwinding, rod by rod, revealing tight, wet coils that will relax into exactly the soft curl she wanted. Missus Bianchi watches in the mirror as her head transforms, delighted, the smell already forgiven and forgotten on her end, because she gets to leave it behind. You do not. The smell has moved into your hands like a tenant with a long lease, and dinner tonight will taste faintly of it, and so will tomorrow's. She leaves glowing, curls bouncing, 3 months of easy mornings ahead of her, and she presses a generous tip into your hand at the door and tells you that you are an angel. You are an angel who smells like a henhouse, but you take the compliment because the curl really is perfect, and you really did make it out of chemistry and patience, and a nose you sacrificed years ago. You wash your hands twice. It does nothing. You crack the window to let the shop breathe. The window does its best. It fails. The dryer did its job, the rollers come out, and now you do the thing they actually pay you for. You brush the set loose, then you tease it, combing sections backward toward the scalp until the hair stands up in a soft, secret tangle. Then you smooth the surface over the top, gently, so the outside is glossy and the inside is hollow as a meringue. Height where she wants height, curl where she wants curl. The whole architecture rests on a cushion of backcombed hair that no one is ever supposed to find. The comb out is the performance, the part the client watches in the mirror with growing hope, the part that turns a head full of stiff dried curls into a hairstyle. Everything before this was preparation. The wash, the set, the long sit under the hood, all of it was just building the raw material that you now sculpt. A client judges her entire visit on these 10 minutes, fairly or not, because these are the only minutes she actually sees. The set is the foundation nobody admires. The comb out is the cathedral everyone photographs. First you brush it all out, and for one alarming moment the careful curls dissolve into a shapeless fluff that makes the client grip the armrests, certain it has gone wrong. It has not. This is the part where you ask her to trust you. Again, the way you ask everyone to trust you in the ugly middle. Then you begin to build, and the fluff becomes form, and her shoulders come back down from her ears. The teasing is the secret, and like most secrets, it is slightly embarrassing up close. You take a section, hold it up, and comb it backward toward the scalp, packing the hair into a dense, fluffy mat that no respectable person would admit to wearing. You rat it, backward and relentless, until the section stands up on its own, frizzed and feral, less a hairstyle than a small weather system. Done across the crown, this mat becomes the hidden engine of all that glorious height, the bouffant standing tall, not on volume of hair but on volume of cleverly tangled air. It is scaffolding made of the client's own hair, the trick behind all that height. Then comes the smoothing, the gentlest pass of the whole job, where you take a soft brush and coax a thin top layer over the teased cushion, hiding the tangle completely under a glossy outer shell. This is the magic and the lie all at once. The outside looks like a smooth, full and effortless wave. The inside is a bird's nest holding it all aloft. Every elegant 1950s head you have ever envied is, underneath, a controlled mess wearing a very good coat. Missus Hargrove wants height, a lot of it, and she tilts her chin up in the mirror as the crown rises, approving each inch like a contractor inspecting a build. You shape the sides to curl under, smooth the back, tuck a stray lock she will never notice, but you would. Higher, she says, and you tease one more section and lift the crown another half-inch, a structure that could rent itself out as a small radio antenna, and she gives a small satisfied nod, because in this town a woman's hair is a statement, and Mrs. Hargrove intends to be heard from across the room. When it is right, you hold up the hand mirror and turn her so she can see the back, the reveal that ends every appointment, and her face does the thing that makes the whole aching day worth it. She turns her head side to side, watching the light move over the wave, and she is, for a moment, exactly the woman she pictured this morning. You did that, out of stiff curls and a secret tangle and 10 minutes of nerve. The cushion underneath will never be seen or thanked. You smooth one last strand and reach for the spray, and you let her keep believing it was always going to look this easy. Every finished head ends in a cloud. You lift the can, you circle the head, and you lay down a shell of lacquer that will hold the style upright through wind, church, and a full week of sleeping carefully. The mist hangs in the air long after the client has gone, catching the light, settling onto the mirror and the counter and the back of your throat. You wave a hand through it out of habit. You have stopped noticing the taste. Your lungs, you suspect, have not, but your lungs do not get a vote. The aerosol can is the newest weapon in the shop and the one that changed everything. Before it, you held a style with setting lotion and prayer, and a hope that the weather would cooperate. Now you have a pressurized can that fires a fine sticky mist on demand, and the bouffant, that towering monument to backcombing, finally has something strong enough to keep it standing all week. The can came out of the war, oddly enough, the same kind of sprayer once used to dispense bug killer for soldiers, now repurposed to lacquer a church-going woman's curls into submission. Progress is strange about where it starts. The stuff is essentially liquid shellac for the head, and it works exactly that well. One good pass and the style becomes a helmet, weatherproof and nearly bulletproof, surviving wind, a convertible ride, and a vigorous Baptist hymn without a strand moving out of place. Clients love it because it makes the look last, which means fewer emergencies, which is the whole economy of the weekly set. A style that collapses by Tuesday is a complaint. A style still standing on Saturday is a loyal customer. You circle the head as you spray, one hand shielding the client's eyes and forehead, building the shell in light even passes. Because too much in one spot and the hair goes crunchy and visibly wet-looking, the dreaded helmet that has crossed from sleek into lacquered. The trick is enough to hold and not so much that it shows. It is, like everything else here, a matter of degrees, and you have sprayed enough heads to know the exact second to stop by the sound the mist makes landing. The mist does not leave when the client does. It hangs, it drifts. It settles on every surface in a fine tacky film, on the mirrors, on the counter, on the magazines, on you. By afternoon, the whole shop has a faint, sweet, and chemical haze to it, catching the light from the window in slow golden drifts that would be almost pretty if you did not have to breathe them. You wave a hand through the air out of pure reflex now, parting the haze like a swimmer, a gesture so automatic you do it even at home where there is nothing to part. Young Delia, your newest apprentice, still coughs at it, eyes watering, asking how you stand the fumes all day, and you tell her the truth, which is that you do not stand them, you simply stopped noticing them, which is not the same as them stopping. She covers her mouth and frowns. Give it a year, you tell her, and she will breathe lacquer like mountain air and never think twice, and you are not entirely sure if that is reassurance or a warning. She decides it is a warning. She is probably right. The can is the highest-selling beauty product in the country now, you have heard, outselling even lipstick, which tells you everything about a decade that has decided hair should not move. You set the can back on the counter beside its dozen siblings, all of them hissing faintly in the heat, and you wipe the sticky film off your mirror that you will wipe off again in an hour. The client at the door pats her unmoving helmet with pride and steps out into the wind, which does nothing to her, which is the entire point. Your throat is faintly sweet by closing time, and you stopped calling that a problem years ago. She unfolds a page torn from a magazine and sets it on the counter, smoothing it flat, and she says she wants this. The photo is a movie star with a team of professionals, a wind machine, and bone structure she was simply born holding. The client has none of these, but she has you and an hour and real hope in her eyes. Your job is to find the version of that picture that lives inside the hair she actually grew. You study the photo. You study her head. You begin negotiating between the two. The photo is always a movie star, and the movie star always has hair that does not occur in nature. It has been set by a studio stylist, lit by a professional, possibly retouched by an artist with a fine brush, and frozen in a single perfect frame chosen from 100. Loretta does not know any of this. Loretta knows that Elizabeth Taylor looks like that in the picture, and that she has the same number of heads as Elizabeth Taylor, and that the arithmetic should therefore work out. You do not have the heart to explain the wind machine. So you become a translator, which is most of the job nobody warns you about. You take the impossible photo and quietly convert it into something her actual hair, her actual face, and her actual life can sustain. The star has a different hair texture, a different density, a different bone structure underneath, and a personal staff. Loretta has fine, flat and stubborn hair, a Tuesday afternoon, and you. The picture is the dream. Your job is to build the achievable cousin of the dream and make her love that one instead. You hold the photo up beside her face in the mirror, and this is the delicate part, because you have to be honest without being cruel. You point out what will work, the part, the length, the soft wave at the side. You gently steer away from what will not, the volume her hair cannot hold, the shape that needs a different forehead. You never say her face is wrong. You say this version will suit her even better, which is sometimes a kind lie and sometimes the plain truth, and the trick of the trade is knowing which one you are telling and selling it the same either way. Loretta points at the crown, where the star has a glorious lift, and you know already her fine hair will not hold that height past noon. You could give it to her with enough teasing and enough spray, a tower that looks magnificent leaving the shop and surrenders to gravity by the bus stop. Or you give her a softer lift that lasts the week and photographs nearly as well in the only photos that matter, the ones at her own kitchen table. You choose the version that survives. A style that collapses on the walk home is a betrayal dressed as a compliment. This is where experience earns its keep, because a young operator gives the client exactly what she points at and learns the hard way when she comes back disappointed. You give her what she actually wants, which is to feel like the woman in the photo, and that feeling almost never requires the exact hairstyle. It requires that the wave falls in a way that catches her own eye in the mirror. Elizabeth Taylor is not the goal. The goal is Loretta, pleased. You set to work, building the translated version, the dream filtered through what is possible, and Loretta watches the photo and watches the mirror, and slowly stops comparing the two. When you turn her with the hand mirror at the end, she does not say it looks like the star. She says it looks like her, on a very good day, which is a far higher compliment, and the only one that ever lasts. She folds the magazine page and tucks it in her purse anyway, to bring again next time, a slightly different star, the same hopeful arithmetic, and you will translate that one too. Some clients come for colour and never once say the word. She sits, she lets you mix the formula in a bowl, she lets you paint it through with a brush, and she leaves looking exactly as God supposedly made her, only more so. The whole transaction runs on a polite fiction that you are both fluent in. You handle the chemistry, the timing, the rinse. She handles the story she tells the neighbours. Colour is the fastest growing thing on your menu, partly because it works, and partly because nobody has to admit it is happening. It was not always like this. Not long ago, dyeing your hair was something only actresses and women of a certain reputation did, and a respectable wife would no sooner colour her hair than rob a bank in daylight. The grey came in and you let it, because that was honest, and honesty was the whole costume. Then the advertisements changed the rules, almost overnight, with one famous little question that did all the work. Does she, the ads asked, or doesn't she? The genius was that the question had no good answer, and so the answer became nobody's business. That single campaign turned colour from a confession into a secret you were allowed to keep, and the bowls came out across America. Suddenly a respectable married woman could cover her grey, and the only person who knew for certain was her operator, who would sooner die than tell. The whole thing was sold as undetectable, natural. Your secret is safe, which is one of the great marketing tricks of the age, basically a filter for your head decades before anyone thought to invent one for a photograph. Miss us. Voss is your most devoted colour client and has never once acknowledged that colour is occurring. She books a shampoo and set every time, and somewhere in the middle of it her grey quietly vanishes and is never spoken of. You mix her formula in the back, you apply it with the door angled so the waiting room cannot see the brush, and you both maintain the fiction with the straight faces of seasoned diplomats. She tips well for the colour. She tips, technically, for the set. You have never corrected the record. The work itself is real chemistry and real risk, fiction or not. You mix the tint precisely, because a shade too dark reads as a wig, and a shade too light fools no one, and you paint it on in sections, roots first where the grey is boldest, then through the lengths. Then you watch the clock like a hawk, because colour left too long goes flat, brassy, and unmistakably done. The one outcome the whole polite arrangement cannot survive. The entire point is that no one can tell. A bad colour tells everyone. There is genuine artistry in matching a colour to a face and a season and an age, in choosing a warmth that flatters her skin, in blending the new growth into the old so there is no telltale line at the part. Done well, it is invisible, which is the cruel thing about your best colour work, that the higher your skill, the less anyone can see you did anything at all. Your worst colour is a scandal. Your finest colour is, by design, completely unnoticed. You have made peace with being praised only for your failure's absence. Miss us. Voss stands at the mirror at the end, patting her ageless, grey-free, entirely natural hair, and she says, as she always says, that you give such a nice set. You agree that you do. She steps out into the afternoon looking 10 years younger than the calendar insists. Her secret intact, carried by a woman who keeps everyone's secrets and charges a fair rate for the privilege. You rinse the bowl, the evidence swirling pink and grey down the drain. The grey is gone. The story holds. Then there is the woman who wants to be blonde, properly blonde, the kind of blonde that does not occur in this family, this town, or this climate. You mix the bleach, you warn her, and she waves the warning away because she has seen the films and made up her mind. You watch the scalp for the first sign of complaint. Bleach is the harshest thing in the shop, stripping the hair down to a pale, fragile ghost of itself. Done right, she glows. Done wrong, she burns. There is not a wide margin between the two. The platinum dream comes straight off the movie screen, and you can name the culprits. Every few months a starlet glows silver white under the studio lights, and within a week your chair fills with women who want to glow too, certain that the only thing standing between them and that shimmer is a bottle of bleach and an afternoon. They do not see the studio's army of colorists, or the careful maintenance, or the fried ends the lighting hides. They see Marilyn. They want Marilyn. You have, regretfully, only bleach. Bleach does not colour hair so much as remove everything that was there, lifting out the natural pigment until the strand is left pale, porous, and structurally exhausted. It is the most violent process in the shop, a controlled chemical burn that you are deliberately, carefully inflicting on a living head. The fumes are sharp, the timing is unforgiving, and the difference between a luminous platinum and a melted disaster is a matter of minutes and attention. You respect bleach the way you respect a hot stove. It does not hold grudges. It does not need to. Carol is young, certain, and absolutely set on platinum, and she dismisses every warning with the cheerful invincibility of someone who has never had a chemical go wrong on her scalp. You tell her plainly that her hair will be fragile, that it will need constant upkeep, that her dark roots will betray her in 3 weeks and demand another visit. She waves it all away. She has decided. So you do what a good operator does, which is to make sure that if she insists on walking into the fire, at least your hand is the steady one holding the timer. You apply it carefully, keeping the bleach off the scalp itself where it stings worst, watching the strands lift from brown to red to orange to yellow to, finally, pale, the whole ugly rainbow you have to pass through to reach platinum. This is the part that frightens first-timers, the brassy orange middle, and you talk Carol through it as she stares in horror at her own carrot-coloured head, promising her it is a stage, not a destination. The toner comes next to kill the brass and cool it to silver. The rainbow is normal. Nobody believes it is normal while it is happening. The scalp is what you never stop watching. You ask her constantly if it tingles, if it stings, if it has tipped from warm into burning, because bleach left too long on skin does real damage and a starlit glow is not worth a blistered scalp. Carol says it is fine, which is what everyone says, so you check it yourself, parting the hair to inspect the skin, trusting your own eyes over her bravado. The vanity is hers. The responsibility, when it goes wrong, is always yours. Then the rinse, the toner, the long conditioning treatment to put back what you can of the moisture the bleach tore out, and at last Carol sees herself silver in the mirror and forgets every warning instantly, radiant and platinum and thrilled. She looks genuinely wonderful. She also looks like a standing appointment for the rest of her natural life, because roots grow and platinum demands feeding, and she will be back in 3 weeks whether she planned to or not. You hand her a bottle of the gentlest conditioner you sell and tell her she will need it. She is too busy glowing to hear you. They never hear you while they are glowing. You learn things at this chair that the priest would envy. A woman relaxes under your hands, the dryer drowns out the room, and the truth simply falls out of her the way pins fall out of a finished set. Whose marriage is cracking? Who is expecting and not telling? Who has stopped speaking to her own sister, and why? You nod, you murmur, you keep combing, and you file it all somewhere it will never be repeated. Your discretion is part of the service. A talkative operator is out of business by spring. There is something about the chair that loosens a tongue. Maybe it is the hands in her hair, a closeness usually reserved for family. Maybe it is that she is facing a mirror and not your eyes, which makes confession easier, the way people tell secrets in the dark of a car. Maybe it is simply that for 1 hour a week, someone is paying complete attention to her, and attention, once it starts, draws everything else out behind it. Whatever the reason, women talk in your chair the way they talk nowhere else, and you have heard the whole town's interior. You know who is behind on which bills, because she mentioned it while you rinsed. You know whose husband has been seen where he should not be, because 2 different women told you the same thing on 2 different days and you said nothing to either. You know who is sick and hiding it, who is leaving and not packed yet, who cries in the chair and blames the shampoo. You are essentially the neighborhood's living record, decades before anyone thought to keep one on a screen, except your record has the decency to keep its mouth shut. Mrs. Calloway is your best source and does not know it. A woman who arrives full of the week and empties it onto you within minutes. Every name, every slight, every quiet drama on her street. You do not encourage her, exactly, but you do not have to. You just comb and listen, and the news of the neighborhood arrives weekly, unbidden, more reliable than the paper and considerably more current. You could run for office on what Mrs. Calloway tells you. You would win. You would also never reveal a word of it, which is precisely why she keeps talking. The moment a woman suspects you repeat what you hear, she stops talking, and worse, she stops coming. The chair only works if it is safe, so you become a vault, silent, loyal, and discreet. The secrets go in, and they do not come out, not to the next client, not to your husband over dinner, not even hinted at. You hold marriages and miscarriages and money troubles in your head like a second set of tools, and you keep them exactly as clean and exactly as private. It is heavier than it sounds, this part of the job nobody trains you for. You carry the town's grief home some nights, a thing you cannot fix and cannot share, a confidence pressed on you between a shampoo and a set. A woman tells you her diagnosis before she tells her own children, because you are safe and they are not, and you smile and finish her hair, and then you stand at your own sink that evening holding it. The chair gives. It also takes, but it is also, quietly, why they love you, and why they stay for 15 years. You are not just the woman who does their hair. You are the one who knows everything and judges nothing and never ever tells, which is rarer than a good comb out and worth far more. They could get their hair set anywhere. They come to you because they can set down the rest of it too, for 1 hour, in a chair where it is safe. You file Mrs. Calloway's latest away with the others, smooth the last curl, and reach for the spray. She is already halfway into next week's news. Your week is not really yours. It belongs to the appointment book, a fat ledger where the same names sit in the same slots, week after week, year after year, like furniture nailed down. Mrs. Albright has Thursday at 10 and has had Thursday at 10 since before you started. The book does not bend. A new client wanting a good slot has to wait for someone to move away, retire, or die, and even then there is a quiet waiting list. You do not schedule the week. You administer a system that scheduled itself years ago. The standing appointment is the backbone of the whole trade, and it is a beautiful, terrible, and permanent thing. Beautiful, because it means your week is full before it begins. Every slot spoken for, the income predictable, and the chairs never cold. Terrible, because it means your week is full before it begins. Your time carved up and assigned by women who claimed their hours during the Truman administration and have no intention of relinquishing them. The book is basically a Netflix subscription nobody can cancel, auto-paying in shampoo and gossip, and you are the service. It never stops billing. The slots have a fierce private hierarchy that no one writes down but everyone understands. The early Saturday spots are gold, fought over silently, inherited like family silver. The midweek mornings are comfortable and dependable. The late Friday slot, the one before closing when you are tired and the light is going, is where the newer clients land until they earn their way up. Move a woman from her slot without permission, and you have not rearranged a schedule. You have committed a small act of war, and she will remind you of it for a decade. Mrs. Albright owns Thursday at 10 the way other people own their homes, with deed and conviction. She arrived for that slot before you were hired, and she will hold it until she physically cannot climb the step to the door, and possibly after. She does not book it. She does not need to. It simply is hers, a standing fact of the universe. And on the rare Thursday she is ill, the slot sits empty and faintly wrong, like a missing tooth, because nobody else would dare sit in Mrs. Albright's 10 o'clock. The waiting for a slot to open is its own quiet drama. A good standing appointment becomes available only when a regular moves out of town, gives up, or dies, and so a new client's hopes are pinned, a little grimly, on the misfortune of a stranger. You keep a mental list of who is hoping for what hour, and when a slot does come free, you fill it with the delicacy of a will being read. There is real estate in this town worth less than a Saturday at 9, and changing hands less often. The book ties you down as surely as it ties them. You cannot take a Thursday off without displacing Mrs. Albright and 3 others cannot fall ill without a cascade of rescheduling that ripples through the week, cannot simply decide to close early because 40 women have built their own weeks around yours. You are the fixed point they orbit, the reliable Thursday, the dependable Saturday, and the price of being depended on is that you may never ever drift. Your freedom got booked solid sometime around your 2nd year, and you have not seen an open week since. Still, you would not trade it, not really, because the full book is the dream every operator chases and most never catch, the thing that turns a job into a living. 40 loyal women, 40 fixed hours, 40 quiet relationships measured out in weekly visits across the years. You watch them age in your mirror, slot by slot, Thursday by Thursday, and they watch you too. You close the ledger at the end of the day, every line filled in the same familiar hand, and you set it by the till for tomorrow, where the week is already written and waiting, exactly as it has been for years. Saturday is not a day, it is a siege. Every woman in the neighbourhood wants to be set and sprayed before Sunday, which means they all want it today, which means they all want it now. You run the chairs back to back from the moment you unlock the door, washing one head while another dries while a third waits with a magazine and a tightening expression. There is no lunch. There is barely a chair for you. By closing, your feet have filed a formal complaint and the shop smells like a chemical cathedral. The logic is ironclad and merciless. Sunday means church, and church means being seen, and being seen means the hair must be perfect, and a set done Saturday is fresh, and a set done Thursday is fading. So Saturday it must be for everyone, all at once. You could plead with them to spread out across the week. You have pleaded. It does not work. Faith and vanity have aligned against your schedule, and there is no arguing with a woman who answers to both God and the neighbours. The shop on Saturday becomes a kind of glorious factory, every station running, every dryer humming, the whole operation unable to stop. You learn to overlap everything, to wash one client while another processes, while a third dries, while a fourth waits, 4 women at 4 stages of the same journey, and you the only set of hands moving between them. It is a juggling act performed standing up, on no lunch, with a comb in your teeth, and the moment you catch your breath, someone new comes through the door. Werner, who owns the shop, works the front on Saturdays, taking money and managing the waiting room with the firm cheerfulness of a woman diffusing a bomb every 20 minutes. She keeps the waiting clients soothed with coffee and small talk and the gentle lie that they are next. While behind her, you and the other operators run flat out. She catches your eye across the room in the worst of the crush and gives you the look, the one that means, hold on, we are nearly through it. It helps, slightly. The waiting room is its own pressure system, filling faster than you can drain it, women perched on the vinyl chairs watching the clock and each other. A delay ripples. One slow comb out and the whole afternoon backs up, and the perched women begin to sigh in a particular register you have learned to dread. One sighs, then another, a whole row of them sighing in shifts like a Greek chorus in pin curls. You move faster. You do not rush the work, because rushed work is bad work. But you eliminate every wasted motion until you are pure efficiency in a smock. There is no break in it, not a real one, just the occasional swallowed mouthful of cold coffee between clients and the brief mercy of a long processing time when you can lean against the counter for 90 seconds and feel your own feet again. Lunch is a sandwich you take 3 bites of at 2 p.m. and abandon when the bell rings. Your back is set into a permanent slight bend. Your hands have not been fully dry since morning. This is the day that pays for the slow ones, so you do not complain much. Then, finally, the last head, the last spray, the last grateful church-going woman, patting her perfect helmet and pressing a folded bill into your palm at the door. The bell stops ringing. The waiting room empties. The shop, suddenly silent, looks like a battlefield, and you stand in the middle of it, swaying slightly, victorious, destroyed, and faintly hysterical. Werner locks the door and counts the till, and it is a good number, the best of the week, earned one frantic head at a time. You look at the wreckage and the money and your ruined feet, and you think, the way you think every Saturday, never again, and then you remember tomorrow they will all be in church, looking wonderful, because of you. The price on the wall is not what lands in your pocket, and you learn that fast. You rent your chair from the owner, or you split your receipts with her, and what is left after that is yours, plus the tips that come folded small and pressed into your palm at the door. A good week of full chairs and grateful regulars adds up. A slow week, or a week the owner raises the chair rent, does not. You count it at the end of the day, in coins and soft bills, smelling faintly of perm. The arithmetic of the chair is the first hard lesson of going independent. Werner owns the building, the dryers, the bowls, the name on the window, and so Werner takes her cut, either a flat weekly rent for your station or a percentage of everything you ring up. You knew this going in, and it still stings a little every Friday, watching a chunk of your week walk back across the room to her. But the chair is real, the dryers are real, the steady stream of walk-ins her reputation brings is real, and a station of your own beats no station at all. You pay the rent. You always pay the rent. What is left after Werner is yours, and it is more than a factory girl makes and less than the wall prices would suggest. The service is $1, $2, a perm runs higher, but split with the house and spread across the slow hours, it works out to a living rather than a fortune. You are not getting rich. You are, however, getting paid in a trade that will never lay you off, never close the plant, never ship the work somewhere cheaper, because hair grows everywhere and always will. There is a deep security in that, even on the thin weeks. Then there are the tips, the part that actually adds up, the folded bills and warm coins pressed into your palm at the door with a squeeze and a thank you. A tip is not really payment, it is gratitude made small enough to carry, and you can feel the difference in how it is given. The regular who loves her set tucks it in like a secret. The new client unsure of the custom fumbles it awkwardly. The grand old lady presses it with both hands like a benediction. You take them all the same way, with a smile, into the smock pocket, where they live until you count them out at night. The counting is its own small ceremony at closing. You empty the pocket onto the counter, the coins and the soft creased bills, and you sort them by size out of pure habit, the way you sort everything, and you add it up while your feet throb their commentary. Some nights the pile is fat and you feel rich, capable, and glad you chose this. Some nights it is thin and you feel every standing hour in it, and you remind yourself the slow weeks pay for nothing but exist to make the busy ones feel like rescue. Werner raises the chair rent every so often, never by much, always with apology, and you grumble and you pay it because the alternative is starting over somewhere with no book and no regulars and no reputation. The rent is the cost of the chair, but the chair is the cost of the living, and the living is good enough. You fold the night's earnings into your purse, the bills still carrying that faint chemical sweetness that everything you own now carries, and you turn out the lights. It is not a fortune. It is a chair that is nearly yours, a book that is full, a trade that cannot be taken away, and a smock pocket that, most weeks, comes home heavier than it left. For a woman making her own way in this decade, with her own 2 hands, that turns out to be very nearly enough, which is its own kind of wealth, quietly counted in coins on a closing counter. There is a box on every drugstore shelf with a smiling woman on it, and that box is trying to put you out of work. The home permanent kit promises the salon perm at the kitchen table for a fraction of your price, and far too many women believe it. You see the results when they come crawling back, fried and frizzed and humbled, but you also see the appointments that never get made. The box does not stand for 8 hours. The box does not have a chair to rent. The box is winning anyway. Some weeks. The box is clever, you will give it that. It put the same cold wave chemistry you use straight into a kitchen, with rods and lotion and instructions a determined woman could almost follow, and it priced itself at a fraction of your fee. Its advertising was a masterstroke too. Those famous twins, one permed at a salon and one permed at home, and the cheerful dare to tell them apart. The whole point being that you could not. Millions believed it. In 1 year, that company sold more kits than every salon in the country sold perms, which is a sentence that keeps an operator up at night. It is, you have to admit, the original do-it-yourself disruption, basically a flat, packed perm you assemble at home, the IKEA of the scalp, and it hit your trade like weather. Why pay an operator and tip her and travel to her shop, the thinking went, when a box promises the same curl for the price of a movie ticket? On paper, the box wins every time. The trouble with the box is that it has never met a real head of hair, and a real head of hair has opinions. Mrs. Dunmore tried the box, and Mrs. Dunmore came back. She sits in your chair now with hair like singed straw, frizzed at the ends and limp at the roots, the timing botched, the lotion uneven, one side curled tight and the other barely waved, the unmistakable signature of a kitchen table perm gone wrong. She is humbled, apologetic, and desperate to fix what the box did. You do not say I told you so. You do not have to. Her hair is saying it loudly enough for both of you. This is the box's great flaw and your quiet salvation. It hands a powerful chemical to an amateur with no training, no timer instinct, no second mirror to see the back, and no idea what over-processing looks like until it is too late. The chemistry does not forgive enthusiasm. What takes you years of practice to control, the box asks a nervous housewife to manage alone in 40 minutes between starting supper and the children getting home, and the results are exactly as reliable as that sounds. Still, you cannot pretend it does not hurt the business, because for every Mrs. Dunmore who comes back, there are others, the box satisfied, or satisfied well enough, and those are appointments that never get booked. The box does not get tired. The box does not raise its rent. The box smiles from the shelf at every woman counting her pennies, and some weeks you can feel it pulling the slow hours thinner. You compete the only way you can on the things a box cannot do: the skill, the consistency, the comb out, the chair, the listening, the safe set of hands. So you fix Mrs. Dunmore's disaster, gently, charging her fairly, and you send her out repaired and a little wiser, and you know she will not touch the box again for a good long while. That is the whole strategy, really, against a thing you cannot beat on price. You let the box make its mistakes and you stand ready to repair them. The professional behind the amateur, the safe hands after the gamble. The box will keep selling. Some women will keep buying. And some of them, sooner or later, will end up back in your chair, where the curl is even and the hands know what they are doing. While you build a head of hair, the manicurist works her own quiet empire from a small table by the window. A client whose colour is processing, or whose set is drying, drifts over and surrenders 10 fingers to her. She files, she shapes, she paints in the reds and corals everyone is wearing this year, and she hears half the gossip you hear from the other end of the same women. You share the same clients and the same long afternoons. You do not share a paycheck. The table is hers. The chair is yours. The secrets are common property. The manicure table is a small masterpiece of placement, tucked by the window for the good light, just far enough from the dryers to hear yourself think. Lorraine runs it, and Lorraine has turned the dead time of the salon into gold. The genius of her position is timing. A woman whose perm is processing has 30 empty minutes. A woman under the dryer has 40. That captive, idle time used to be wasted, and Lorraine turned it into a second service, performed on the same client, in the same visit, for an extra fee. She monetized the waiting, the upsell Costco would make famous 50 years later. You have always admired that. Her work is precise in a way that puts your big, sweeping hair gestures to shame. She shapes each nail to the same gentle oval, pushes the cuticles, buffs, and lays down the colour in 3 careful strokes: base, centre, edge. The reds and corals that match the lipsticks of the season. A bad manicure announces itself the second a woman reaches for her coffee. A smudge, a streak, a bubble. So Lorraine works slow and exact, and her clients learn not to rush her. 10 perfect nails, like 10 tiny lacquered shields, ready to face the week. Lorraine and you are a strange pair, sharing everything and nothing. You share the clients, the room, the long afternoons, the same hiss of the same hairspray, the same parade of women through the door. You do not share a till. She keeps her fees and her tips, you keep yours. Two separate little businesses running side by side under Werner's one roof, cooperative and entirely independent. The table is hers, the chair is yours. Neither of you crosses. The one thing you do pool, without ever discussing it, is the gossip. A woman tells you one half of a story while you set her hair and tells Lorraine the other half while her nails dry, and afterward, in a quiet moment, you and Lorraine compare notes with a look and a raised eyebrow and assemble the whole. Between the two of you, no secret in this town stays in pieces for long. You are a two-woman intelligence service operating out of a beauty parlor, and the clients have no idea they are briefing both halves of it across one appointment. There is a real comfort in having her there through the long days. When the Saturday siege hits, she keeps the waiting women occupied with a quick file and polish, easing your backlog without being asked. When a client is upset in your chair, Lorraine catches your eye and knows. When the shop is dead on a rainy Tuesday, the two of you talk across the quiet room about nothing, and the hours pass easier for it. She is the one other person who understands exactly what this work costs, because she is paying a version of the same bill, just with her hands lower down. At the end of the day, she covers her little table, caps her bottles, and counts her own coins while you count yours. The two tallies separate as ever. The two women equally tired. You compare the day in a sentence or two. The difficult client, the good tipper, the thing you both heard and will both keep. Then she goes out her door and you go out yours, colleagues parting until tomorrow, when you will set hair and she will paint nails 3 feet apart all day and quietly run the most informed corner in town between you. Some appointments are for the face, and here your hands become the whole instrument. You steam her skin open, you work in the creams, you press and smooth along the bones of the face the way your training drilled into you, learning the structure under the skin by touch. There is no machine for this, no dryer, no chemistry timer ticking. There is only you, a warm towel, and a face that slowly stops frowning. She came in wearing the whole week on her forehead. Your job is to quietly take it off her. The facial is the gentlest thing you do, and after a morning of perm fumes and bleach, it feels almost like a different profession. No harsh chemicals, no risk of burning anyone, no clock counting down to disaster, just warm steam, soft creams, and your hands, which the school spent a long time teaching to read a face. You learn the bones, the muscles, the places tension gathers and the direction to push it, knowledge that lives in your fingers now and works without you thinking about it. It begins with steam, a warm damp towel laid over the face or a kettle's worth of vapor opening the skin, softening everything, and the client's whole body lets go a little the moment the heat lands. Then the cleansing cream, worked in slow circles, lifting the day off her skin, followed by the massage, which is the heart of it. You press along the jaw, up the cheeks, across the forehead, smoothing out the frown lines with steady fingers, and you can feel the worry leave under your hands like air going out of a tire. Missus. Lindquist comes in once a month looking like she has been carrying something heavy, which she has, 6 children and a husband who travels and a mother across town who needs minding. She lies back on the reclined chair, and within 5 minutes of the warm towel her jaw unclenches for what is probably the first time since her last visit. She does not talk during a facial, which is its own kind of relief for you both. She just breathes, and you work, and the worry drains out of her face one careful press at a time. There is real skill in it, more than the soothing surface suggests. You read her skin, dry here, oily there, this patch needing gentleness and that one needing work, and you choose the creams to match, the way you choose a hair colour, by what the face in front of you actually needs. You know which pressure soothes and which would bruise, where the sinuses sit, how to drain a puffy under eye, how to leave her looking not just relaxed but visibly brighter, as if she slept 10 years' worth in 40 minutes. The hands do the reading. The face tells the truth. What she is really buying, though, is not the cream. It is the permission to be tended to, the rare experience of lying still while someone else takes care of her face, asks nothing, fixes what they can. For a woman whose entire life is spent attending to other people, 40 minutes of being the one attended to is medicine no jar contains. You give it to her gladly, your hands steady and warm, and you watch the years come off her not from the cream but from the simple fact of being, for once, the one looked after. When it is done, you cool the skin, pat it dry, and hold up the mirror, and Mrs. Lindqvist looks at a softer, brighter, and unworried version of herself she had half forgotten was in there. She always says she should do this more often. She always means it. She will still wait a month, because the 6 children and the travelling husband and the mother across town do not pause for anyone's skin. But for now she sits up slowly, reluctant to leave the chair, carrying a calm that will last her at least until the parking lot, sometimes, on a good day, even longer. Before a wedding, a party, or a photograph that matters, the add-ons come out. You arch the brows, plucking or waxing them into the thin, surprised lines the magazines insist upon, while she grips the chair and pretends it does not sting. Then, for the truly special night, the false lashes, applied strip by delicate strip along a lid that will not hold still. The whole face sharpens, opens, becomes its dressed-up self. It is fiddly, eye-watering, close-up work, and it is the part of the job that feels least like hair and most like quiet surgery. The brow is where a face starts, though most women never think about it until you reshape one. You study the natural line, decide where the arch should peak to open the eye, and then you go to work, plucking the strays or melting a little warm wax to clear a clean line. The magazines this decade want them thin, high, and faintly astonished, as if every fashionable woman has just heard mild gossip, and so you give her the astonished brow, hair by hair, while she breathes through her teeth. It stings, and there is no pretending otherwise, so you have developed a patter to carry her through it, a steady stream of distraction delivered while your tweezers work. You pluck on the exhale, the old trick, timing each pull to the breath out when the nerves are quietest. She grips the armrest and laughs through watering eyes and tells you she does not know why she does this to herself, and you tell her, truthfully, that she will forget the sting the second she sees the result. The brow is brief pain for a face that suddenly looks awake. The lashes are another order of fiddliness entirely, reserved for the nights that truly matter. Janet is getting them for her engagement party, and Janet's eyelids, like all eyelids, refuse to hold still while you work. You take a strip of false lashes, run a fine line of adhesive along its base, wait for it to go tacky, and then guide it down onto her lash line while she stares fixedly at the ceiling and tries not to blink you into the next county. It is a negotiation between your steady hand and her involuntary flinch, and your hand has to win. This is the closest the job comes to surgery, hunched an inch from someone's open eye, holding a glued strip of false hair on the tip of a tweezer, both of you barely breathing. One blink at the wrong moment and the lash lands crooked, or the glue catches the wrong place, and you peel it gently off and start again, patient as a watchmaker. The margin is tiny. The eye is delicate and unforgiving. You have done it 1,000 times and you still hold your own breath every single time the strip touches down. Then it sets, and Janet blinks, carefully, and the lashes hold, and she opens her eyes fully toward the mirror and gasps a little, because the transformation is genuinely startling. The arched brow opened the eye and the lashes doubled it, and suddenly she looks like the heightened, glamorous, photograph-ready version of herself, the one fit for an engagement party and the camera that will be there. Her own face, turned up to its brightest setting, she turns her head side to side, delighted, blinking slow to feel the new weight. These are the appointments that feel least like the rest of the trade. No rollers, no chemistry, no dryer roaring behind you, just your hands and a face and the painstaking small work of sharpening it. They are slow, they are fussy, they leave your own eyes tired from focusing so close, and they are some of the most satisfying things you do, because the change is instant and the gratitude is real. Janet floats out toward her party, doubled and gleaming. The false lashes will last her one glorious night and end up in a drawer by morning, and that is exactly enough. The state can walk through your door any day it likes, and so you keep the shop ready to be judged. Combs and clips soak in the blue jar of disinfectant between every single client, standing in it like celery in a glass. Towels are clean, surfaces are wiped, the license hangs where it can be seen. When the inspector does come, you smile, and you let him peer into your jars and your drawers and your conscience. Sanitation is not a suggestion here. It is the law, and the law has a clipboard, and you have seen shops closed over less. The blue jar is the small, constant heartbeat of the whole operation, the disinfectant solution that every comb and clip goes into between clients. No exceptions, no shortcuts even on the busiest Saturday. It is the same blue liquid in every shop in America, invented a few years back and adopted everywhere overnight, and it sits at every station like a glass of strange celery. You drop your tools in after each head out of pure reflex now. A habit so deep you do it at home with your own hairbrush and have to laugh at yourself. The reason for all of it is not vanity but contagion. Scalps carry things, lice and ringworm and infections that hop happily from head to head on a shared comb. And a beauty shop, with its parade of strangers and its intimate hands-on work, is exactly the kind of place that could spread them. So the law steps in, and the law is right too, because one filthy shop could sicken half a neighborhood. The disinfectant, the clean towels, the refusal to work on a diseased scalp, these are not fussiness. They are the difference between a beauty parlor and a health hazard. Mr. Foley is the inspector, and Mr. Foley arrives without warning, which is the entire point of Mr. Foley. He steps in with his clipboard and his unhurried gaze, and the shop goes subtly tense, every operator suddenly very aware of her jars and her towels and her drawers. He checks the disinfectant, sniffs it to be sure it is fresh and not last week's, peers into the combs, examines the towels, confirms the licenses hang where the public can see them. He is polite, thorough, and impossible to fool, and he writes, "You are not afraid of Mr. Foley, because you run a clean shop and you have nothing in the drawer you would not want found," which is exactly the position you work to be in every single day. The operators who fear the inspector are the ones cutting corners, reusing a towel, skimping on the disinfectant, hoping not to be caught, and they are the ones who eventually are. You decided long ago it is easier to simply be clean than to perform cleanliness for a surprise audience. The blue jar is full because it should be full, not because Mr. Foley might look. Still, there is a small theatre to the visit, an unspoken courtesy on both sides. You smile and you offer him the run of the place, jars and drawers and conscience, and he accepts and inspects and finds as he expected that all is in order. He makes a note, nods, mentions the weather, and moves on to terrorize the shop down the block. The whole thing takes 10 minutes and resolves nothing, because there was nothing to resolve, which is the best possible outcome and the only one you ever aim for. When the door closes behind him, the shop exhales all at once, the tension breaking into nervous laughter, everyone suddenly chatty with relief even though everyone passed easily. You drop your comb back into the blue jar, where it would have gone anyway, and you get back to the head in your chair. The law has a clipboard, and the clipboard has teeth, and you respect both, and you keep the jar full and the towels clean not for the inspector's sake, but because a scalp is a fragile thing, and a shop is a place strangers trust with their heads. Every operator has one, and on Tuesdays she is yours. She sits down already disappointed, describes exactly what she wants in terms that contradict each other, and studies the finished result in the mirror for any flaw to seize on. Too flat, too high. Not like last time, when it was also wrong. You have learned to read her, to give a little, to adjust the thing she will accept and ignore the thing she only said. She tips fairly and returns faithfully, which means the complaining is, in its way, a kind of loyalty. You have made peace with it. Mrs. Coyle is her name, and Mrs. Coyle has never once left your chair entirely happy, which is a record she seems quietly proud of. She wants volume but not height, curl but not too much curl, the same as last week but different, softer but with more body, instructions that fold in on themselves like a riddle with no answer. A younger operator would chase every contradiction in circles and end the appointment defeated. You stopped chasing years ago. You learned to listen past the words to the actual woman underneath them, because here is the secret about Mrs. Coyle, the thing it took you a long time to understand. The complaints are not really about the hair. The hair is fine. The hair is, frankly, very good, because you are very good. The complaints are how she talks, how she fills the chair time, how a woman who controls little else in her life gets to be, for 1 hour a week, the exacting client whose standards must be met. The dissatisfaction is the service she is actually here for. You provide it, professionally, and send her off grumbling, content, and quietly satisfied. So you have developed a system, refined over years of Tuesdays. You give her something to fix, deliberately, a small adjustable thing, a curl set slightly fuller than she likes, so that when she frowns and points, you can nod gravely and correct it, and she gets the satisfaction of being heard and improving the result. You adjust the thing she names, and you quietly ignore the 3 contradictory things she only implied. The hair ends up where you always meant it to be. She ends up feeling listened to. Everyone wins, and only one of you knows the game is being played. It is, when you think about it, a strange kind of performance. The two of you in the mirror running the same play every week. She critiques, you adjust, she critiques the adjustment, you make peace, and somewhere in there a perfectly nice hairstyle gets built almost incidentally. An outsider watching would think she despised your work. You know better. A woman who truly hated her hair would simply go elsewhere and miss us. Coil has been coming to your chair, faithfully, every Tuesday, for as long as you can remember. The new operators never believe it until they live it. She complains because she is comfortable, because she trusts you to take it, because the chair is one of the few places she can be demanding without consequence. The easy clients drift between shops chasing a sale. Mrs. Coil would no sooner change operators than change religions. Her loyalty just happens to wear the costume of perpetual mild disappointment, and you have learned to read the loyalty under the costume. When she stands at the end, she examines herself one last time, sighs as if settling for something, and tells you it will do, which is the highest praise Mrs. Coil has ever given anything. Then she tips you fairly, books next Tuesday, and leaves patting her perfectly nice hair with the air of a woman who has, against the odds, survived another disappointing appointment. You watch her go, a little fond, a little amused, and you write her name in the book for next week, where it has always been and where it will stay. A wedding means you open before the birds do. The bride and her women arrive in a nervous flock long before normal hours, clutching coffee and veils and a timeline that is already slipping. You set and comb and pin under real pressure now, because this hair has to last through a ceremony, a meal, 100 photographs, and an aunt who will cry directly onto it. The bride is anxious. Her mother is anxious. You are the only calm hands in the room, and everyone is watching the clock over your shoulder while you work. The wedding appointment breaks every normal rule of the shop, starting with the hour. You unlock the door while it is still half dark, because a noon wedding means hair by 9 means the bridal party by 7, and so you are setting curls at an hour when you would normally still be dreaming about setting curls. Then the flock arrives, and the quiet is over, and the morning becomes a controlled sprint. There are more heads than usual and less time than you would like. The bride, and her mother, and 3 bridesmaids, and possibly a grandmother, all needing to be done, all on one merciless timeline that the day will not push back for anyone. You triage like a field nurse. The styles that take longest go first, the simple ones last. The bride somewhere in the middle, so her hair is fresh but not rushed. You move down the flock setting and pinning, holding the whole schedule in your head, every minute spoken for before it arrives. Patricia, the bride, is the most anxious head in the room, which is its own challenge, because anxiety makes a person fidget, and a fidgeting head is a hard head to set. You work to calm her even as you work on her, a steady voice and steady hands, telling her she looks beautiful, that there is plenty of time, that her hair will hold, gentle lies and gentle truths mixed exactly as the moment needs. Her mother hovers behind, anxious in the way that makes everything worse, fretful, restless, and underfoot, and you manage her too, with a smile and a small assigned task, because an occupied mother is a calmer mother. The stakes are real, and you feel them, because this hair has one job and 1,000 witnesses. It must survive the ceremony, the receiving line, the meal, the dancing, and above all the photographs that will hang on walls for 50 years, in which the bride's hair will be frozen exactly as you leave it this morning. There is no fixing it later. There is no next week. You get one shot at a head that will be looked at for half a century, and so you spray it like you are sealing it in amber, because you are. There is an emotion in the room too, under the rush, that the ordinary appointment never has. This is the morning of a day a woman has imagined her whole life, and you are part of it, the first stop, the one who sends her out the door looking the way she will look when she promises the rest of her life away. The bridesmaids tear up. The mother definitely tears up. You keep your own face professional and your hands moving, but you are not made of stone, and a bride looking at herself finished in the mirror is a thing that gets you every time. Then they are done, the whole flock set and sprayed and gleaming, and they gather their veils and their flowers and their nerves, and sweep out into the early light toward the church, leaving the shop suddenly enormous and quiet around you. You have not even had your second coffee. It is barely the hour you would normally open, and you have already done the most important heads of someone's entire life. You wipe down the stations, reset for the regular day about to begin, And somewhere across town, a bride walks down an aisle wearing your morning's work, holding, you hope, exactly as you pinned it. Your whole trade happens on your feet, and your feet keep the score. You stand at the bowl, you stand at the chair, you stand at the dryers, 8 hours or 10, moving from head to head, while the one comfortable seat in the room stays full of a paying customer. By afternoon, your arches ache, by evening your ankles have swollen, and the varicose veins the older operators warned you about are no longer a story but a forecast. You shift your weight, you keep moving, and you do not sit down. There is simply no time to sit down. It is the great irony of the shop, the one nobody mentions to a girl signing up for the trade. You spend your entire day making other women comfortable, reclining them, cradling their necks, settling them under warm dryers and cushioned chairs, and you do all of it from your own 2 aching feet. The chair is the most comfortable seat in the room, plush, warm and reserved, and it is never, not once, for you. You hover beside it all day like a waiter at a feast you are not invited to sit down for, tending the comfort of others while your own body files its slow complaint. The standing is relentless in a way that surprises everyone who has not done it. It is not the bursts of effort that wear you down, it is the sheer unbroken duration, hour after hour of being upright on a hard floor with no real chance to rest. Your feet ache first, then your arches, then your calves, then the long muscles of your back from bending to the bowl and reaching to the crown. By closing, your body knows the exact number, even when you have lost count. Ruth warned you about this, back when you were the girl with the broom, lifting her skirt to show you the ropey blue veins mapping her own calves. The operator's pension, she called them, bitterly amused. You did not believe her then, with your young, painless legs. You believe her now. The varicose veins have begun their slow arrival on your own legs, the trade's quiet signature written into your body, the price of 1,000 standing days you cannot give back. Ruth was right. You have learned the small defences, the tricks every operator works out alone because no one teaches them. You shift your weight foot to foot in a slow, constant sway you no longer notice you are doing. You wear the most sensible shoes vanity will permit. Then sensible shoes vanity will not permit, because the feet win that argument every time in the end. You steal 30 seconds leaning against the counter when a perm processes. You soak your feet at night in water as hot as you can stand, and it helps the way emptying a thimble helps a flood. The feet, the ankles, the veins, the back that no longer straightens at the end of a long day, these are the real cost of the work, paid not in money but in slow wear, the kind that does not show in the mirror but shows in how you climb the stairs at night. You knew none of this at the licensing exam, where they tested you on scalp anatomy and never once mentioned what the job would do to the rest of you. And yet you keep standing, because the work is good and the trade is yours and the alternative is no trade at all. You find a stool finally late in your years and perch on it for the parts of the job that allow it. A small surrender younger you would have been too proud to make. You stand for the rest, beside the soft empty chair between clients, resting your hand on its warm headrest for a moment, the closest you come all day to sitting in it. Your hands tell the truth about this job even when you do not. They are wet from the moment you open until the moment you close, soaked in shampoo, peroxide, ammonia, dye, and perm solution that does not care whose skin it is on. By Saturday, your fingertips are cracked, the knuckles raw, the nails stained faintly at the edges. You rub in cream at night and it helps a little. The skin will never fully recover while you keep working, and you will keep working, so you and your hands reach a quiet, permanent understanding. The wetness is the first thing, the constant of it. Most jobs let your hands dry out between tasks, but yours never get the chance. Plunged into the shampoo bowl, then the rinse, then the perm lotion, then the dye, then the rinse again. An endless cycle of water and chemistry from morning to night. Wet skin is soft skin, and soft skin breaks down, the way a board left in the rain warps and splits. Your hands are never dry long enough to heal, and so they live in a permanent state of gentle siege. Then there are the chemicals themselves, which are far less polite than the marketing suggests. Peroxide bleaches your skin in pale patches where it lingers. Ammonia stings any crack it finds, and it finds them all. The perm solution leaves your fingertips rough, numb, and faintly raw, and the dyes stain the edges of your nails. A stubborn shadow no scrubbing fully lifts. You wear gloves when you can, but gloves rob your fingers of the feel the work demands, the exact sense of a curl's dampness or a section's tension, and so half the time you work barehanded and pay for it later. Mr. Pearl, who runs the drugstore on the corner, knows you by your hands before he knows you by your face. You come in for the heaviest cream he stocks, the one for farmers and fishermen and others who use their hands hard, and he reaches for it before you ask, sliding the tin across the counter with a sympathetic nod. He has watched a parade of operators buy that same tin for years. He does not need to ask what it is for. Your knuckles tell him, raw and cracked, the standing receipt of the trade. The cream helps the way a held breath helps, which is to say temporarily and not enough. You work it in every night, thick, and you sleep sometimes with cotton gloves over it to let it soak, and in the morning your hands are softer for an hour until the first shampoo undoes it all. It is a holding action, not a cure, because there is no cure that does not involve quitting, and you are not quitting. So you manage the damage. You keep the cracks from splitting open. You lose the war slowly and on purpose. There is a strange intimacy in it, your hands carrying the evidence of every head you have ever touched. The same fingers that built 1,000 beautiful styles are themselves rough and stained and worn, the beauty all given outward and the cost kept inward, on your own skin where the clients never look. You make women lovely with hands that the work has made plain. It is a fair trade, you have decided, though no one warned you it was a trade you would be making at all. At the end of the day, you look at them under the closing lights, these honest, ruined, capable hands, and you feel something close to fondness. They are not pretty. They were never going to stay pretty in this trade, but they are skilled beyond what any pretty pair could manage, and they have fed you and built your name and brought 10,000 women a little joy, and that is worth more than soft knuckles. You rub in the cream, flex the cracked fingers, and let them rest, ruined and capable, in your lap. When a mother cannot find anyone to mind the children come to you. They are deposited in the corner with a colouring book and a stern instruction to behave, and for about 11 minutes they do. Then they discover the rollers, the spinning chairs, the fascinating jar of blue liquid they must absolutely not touch. You keep one eye on the comb out and one eye on the small person now testing the limits of the swivel stool. The mother, blissfully under the dryer, hears none of it. You manage the hair and the hazard at the same time. The arrangement is nobody's idea and everybody's reality. A woman with small children and no one to leave them with still needs her hair done. The appointment is sacred, the slot is hers, and so the children come along, because the alternative is she does not come at all. You would rather have the children than lose the client, so you have made your peace with the corner, the colouring books you keep on hand, the small chaos that arrives attached to certain standing appointments. The shop was not designed for children. The shop adapts. For the first stretch they are angelic, genuinely, occupied by the novelty and the warnings still fresh in their ears. Then the novelty wears off as novelty does, and a beauty parlour reveals itself to a bored child as the single most fascinating room ever constructed. The chairs spin, the rollers stack, the foot pedals raise and lower a whole seat by magic. The blue jar glows like a potion. Everything that must not be touched is, to a 4-year-old, a personal invitation, engraved and delivered by the universe itself. Bobby is 4, and Bobby has discovered the swivel stool, and Bobby is now spinning himself slowly toward a velocity that can only end one way. You are mid-comb out on his mother's friend, hands full, and you redirect him with the particular voice mothers and operators share, the calm, firm one that stops a child without alarming a client. He pauses, he considers, he spins again, experimentally, watching you to see if the voice was serious. You hold his eye over the comb. He gets down. The negotiation, conducted entirely without words, is one you win perhaps half the time. The real worry is not the spinning, it is the chemistry, because a beauty shop is full of things that must never reach a child. The perm solution, the bleach, the dye, the blue disinfectant, all of it sits at toddler height in fascinating bottles, and your attention is split a dozen ways on a busy afternoon. So you have learned to position the small ones where you can see them, to keep the dangerous things capped and back, to count heads of a different kind. A shop full of caustic chemistry and a curious, restless and fearless child is a combination you simply do not take your eye off. And yet there is something you have grown fond of in it, the children underfoot, the corner full of crayons, the small lives passing through the shop alongside the grown ones. You have watched some of them grow up in that corner, the toddler on the stool becoming the schoolgirl with a book, becoming eventually a young woman in your chair for her first real set. The shop is not just where their mothers come. It is part of their childhood, the smell of it, the hum of it, lodged somewhere they will carry for life without knowing why. The mother emerges from under the dryer at last, refreshed and oblivious, and gathers Bobby and the crayons and the colouring book, thanking you, never quite knowing the small campaign you waged on her behalf while she dried. You wave them out the door, the boy already telling her something urgent about the spinning stool, and you straighten the corner where the crayons live. Then you cap the blue jar a little tighter, out of habit and hard-won wisdom, and pick a lone crayon up off the floor where Bobby left it. The set is finished, but your work only holds if she does her part at home, so you give the instructions like a doctor releasing a patient. Do not wash it. Do not brush it flat. At night, wrap it in a scarf or in toilet paper wound carefully around the curls, and sleep on your back if you can manage it, still as a tomb. She nods. You both know she will toss and crush one side by Wednesday and blame the weather. A week is a long time to protect a structure built to last exactly that long, and not one night more. This is the part of the trade nobody outside it understands, that the hairstyle is meant to last a week, and that lasting a week is mostly the client's job, not yours. You build it to hold. You spray it like armour, but the moment she walks out the door it is in her hands, or rather on her head, defenceless against pillows and weather and her own restless sleep. So you send her home with instructions, a whole protocol of preservation, because the most beautiful set in the world is worthless if it collapses the first night. The first rule is the strangest to modern ears and the most sacred to her. Do not wash it. The entire point of the weekly set is that it stays put until the next one, which means no washing, no wetting, no undoing the architecture you spent an hour building. A woman does not wash her hair this decade so much as visit it weekly at a chair, and between visits she preserves it like a museum piece, which it is, an exhibit she happens to wear on her head. Then comes the nightly protection, the rituals that keep the set alive through the dangerous hours of sleep. Some women wrap the whole head in a silk scarf, some wind toilet paper around the curls, a strange nightly mummy wrap that flattens nothing and holds everything. Some sleep on special pillows, or train themselves to sleep on their backs, motionless, surrendering comfort to vanity for 6 nights, so the 7th still looks like Sunday. You explain it all, straight-faced, because to you it is simply maintenance, and only later does it strike you how it sounds. Miss us. Whitfield listens to the protocol and nods along, and you both know she is lying. Gently, the way they all do. She will be careful the first 2 nights, genuinely propped on her back like an effigy. Then by Wednesday she will forget, or her husband will, or she will simply roll over in her sleep the way humans do, and she will wake with one side of the bouffant crushed flat and the other defiantly intact, a hairstyle that lost a fight in the night. She will come in next week and report, wounded, that it did not hold. It held. She slept. I clave. You have learned not to take it personally, the slow nightly destruction of your morning's work, because it is not a flaw in the set. It is the nature of sleeping with architecture on your head. The clients who follow the protocol faithfully get 6 good days. The ones who do not get 3 and blame the spray, and you nod and rebuild it the following week, the eternal cycle of build, preserve, and collapse. The set is a promise the hair makes and the pillow keeps trying to break. So you teach the preservation gently and you forgive the inevitable failure, because a woman cannot truly hold still for 6 nights, and you would never really ask her to. You wrap the last curl, hand her the mirror, and remind her one more time, kindly, scarf or paper, sleep on your back, and she promises she will, and you both smile because you both know. She leaves protected as well as instruction allows, carrying a week's worth of careful hair into a world full of pillows, and you already know you will likely rebuild this one in 7 days, crushed on one side, blamed on the weather. The hood dryer is a confessional with a timer, sealed under the raw, half hidden. A woman who would never say a word across a kitchen table will tell you everything. She talks because the noise gives her privacy, because your hands have already disarmed her, because an hour is a long time to sit with your own thoughts and easier to hand them to someone steady. You catch the words over the machine, lean in, and listen. By the time her hair is dry, she is lighter, and you are carrying a little more than you walked in with. The dryer does something the chair alone cannot, and it took you years to understand the mechanism. Under that metal dome, the roar is total. a wall of white noise that swallows every word before it can travel 3 feet, so a woman speaking from beneath it is, acoustically, completely alone with you. The other clients cannot hear, the manicurist cannot hear. The privacy is real and physical, manufactured by sheer volume, a soundproof booth disguised as a beauty appliance. It is the one truly private place in a shop full of ears. And so the dryer hears things the chair never quite does, the heavier confidences, the ones a woman needs the cover of noise to say out loud. She leans toward you, you lean toward her, and over the rush of hot air she tells you the thing she has been carrying all week, in a half shout that no one else can catch. You nod, you do not react large. You've learned that a calm face under the dryer keeps the words coming, and that a flinch, even a small one, slams the door. Mrs. Renner tells you, under the dryer, on an ordinary Wednesday, that she is leaving her husband. She says it almost casually, the way the dryer lets people say enormous things, staring straight ahead at the mirror while the heat pours down, and you keep your hands moving on the next client and your face perfectly even, and you simply listen. She has told no one. She is telling you because you are safe, because the roar is total, because she had to say it to someone, and the dryer made it possible. You hold it like you hold all of them. It pours out here for a reason, and not only because of the noise. It is that for 1 hour, sealed in the heat, a woman has nothing to do but sit with her own mind, no children to mind, no supper to start, no husband to manage, just herself and her thoughts and the long dry, thoughts left alone that long get heavy, and a steady listener 3 feet away becomes an irresistible place to set them down. The dryer does not just hide the words, it manufactures the conditions that produce them. Receiving it is a craft the school never taught. You learn to read her mouth as much as hear it, to catch the shape of a sentence the machine eats, to pitch your reply, steady, calm, and unhurried, just under the roar so it reaches her and no one else. You keep the comb moving, the face still, the timing exact, and when the words cost her the most, you quietly add 2 minutes to her clock so she is not rushed out of them. When the timer ends and you lift the hood, the roar drops away and the privacy with it, and the woman blinks back into the ordinary room, lighter for having said the thing, sometimes a little startled she said it. You walk her to your chair and begin the comb out as if nothing passed between you, because in the visible world, nothing did. Mrs. Renner studies her finished hair in the mirror, thanks you, and books next week. The dryer cools behind you, ticking as it contracts, holding nothing and telling no one, the most discreet machine in the shop. Lately a new kind of operator has appeared at the next chair, and he is a man. Since the war ended, more of them have chosen this work, and the regulars are not entirely sure what to do with the development. Some women request him specially and call him an artist. Some women would no sooner let a man near their pin curls than hand him their diary. He is good annoyingly, and he charges more, and he never seems to get the swollen ankles. You work beside him, polite and competitive, and you both pretend the chair rent is the only thing being negotiated. The beauty trade has been a woman's world for as long as anyone can remember. Women serving women, run on women's schedules in a room men mostly only entered to read the meter. Then the war ended, and something shifted, and a steady trickle of men began choosing this work, and now there is one of them at the chair beside yours. It still surprises the older clients who grew up understanding that hair was women's business, the way they understand the moon comes out at night. The room is changing, slowly, one male operator at a time. Vincent is his name, and Vincent, infuriatingly, is talented. You watched him build a French twist last week with a speed and precision you grudgingly admired, his hands sure, his eye exact, and you wanted badly to find fault and could not. He trained the same as you, passed the same exam, soaks his combs in the same blue jar, and he is, by any honest measure, a genuinely good operator. You would respect him enormously if he were not, so visibly, doing well at the thing you have given your whole working life to. The clients sort themselves into 2 camps about him, and the sorting is its own quiet comedy. One camp adores him, requests him specially, calls him an artist with a capital A, finds something thrilling about a man attending to their hair. The other camp is scandalized, would no more let a man near their scalp than hand him their private diary, and books firmly with you, which you do not mind. Between the 2 camps the work divides, and the shop somehow holds more clients than before, which even you have to admit is good for everyone. There are advantages he has that prickle, if you are honest. He charges more, and the clients pay it, the same set somehow worth a few cents extra coming from his hands, a markup you have never been able to command and resent on principle. He is treated as an artist where you are treated as a hairdresser. The identical skill read differently depending on who holds the comb. You have noticed this. You have said nothing about it. There is no one to say it to who could change it, and complaining is not in your nature anyway. But there is one advantage, the deepest one, that the men do not have, and you cling to it a little. The women do not tell Vincent things. They admire his work, they pay his premium, they call him an artist, but they do not lean back under his hands and pour out the weak, do not confess under the dryer to a man, do not hand him the town's private heart the way they hand it to you. That intimacy, the listening, the safekeeping, is still yours, still a woman's, and no amount of talent at a French twist buys it. So you work beside Vincent, the two of you sharing the room and the jar and the long days, polite, competitive, and secretly respectful, pretending the chair rent is the only thing being negotiated when of course it is not. The trade is wide enough for both of you, it turns out. His camp and your camp, his artistry and your confidences, and the shop is the busier for the mix. You nod to him across the room at closing, two operators equally tired, and you go out your separate doors, having quietly decided, again, not to mind him too much. Money in a neighbourhood shop is rarely as clean as the price list pretends. A regular short this week asks if she can settle next time, and because you know her, and her mother, and her whole street, you say of course, and write it in the margin. Most of them pay. A few of them let it grow week after week, a soft debt nobody mentions out loud while the hair keeps getting done. You are running a beauty parlour and, quietly, a small, unlicensed bank. The set comes first. The reckoning comes whenever it comes. The price list on the wall suggests a clean transaction. A service for a fee, money for hair, simple. The reality of a neighbourhood shop is softer and more tangled than that, run on relationships, memory, and mercy as much as on cash. A woman you have served for 10 years, whose mother you served before her, is not a transaction. She is family adjacent, and you do not demand cash from family at the door, not when she is a little short and her week has clearly been hard. So a quiet system of credit grows up alongside the cash one, unspoken and unwritten except for the small marks you keep in the margin of the book. She is short this Thursday, asks softly if she might settle next time, and you say of course before she has finished asking, because the alternative is humiliating her over $1, and you will not do that to a woman whose hair you have done for a decade. You make the mark. You say nothing. The set is the same as always. Her dignity stays intact, which is worth more than the $1. Most of them are good for it, and the marks clear within a week or two, the debt a brief courtesy rather than a real loss. But a few let it grow, quietly, $1 here and $1 there accumulating into something neither of you names out loud, the hair still getting done because stopping would mean a conversation neither of you wants. You keep setting the hair, a beauty operator running, on the side, a tiny informal bank with terrible collection practices and excellent customer loyalty. Mrs. Salerno is your largest quiet debt, and Mrs. Salerno's situation is plain to anyone who looks. A husband out of work and 3 children and a pride that will not let her say so directly. She comes every 2 weeks, she gets her set, she murmurs about settling soon, and you murmur that there is no rush, and the number in the margin grows. You could press her. You do not. You have decided her good name is worth more to protect than the debt is worth to collect. Werner knows about the margins, of course, and Werner takes a harder line in principle, because Werner owns the shop and the shop runs on cash, not on goodwill. She reminds you not unkindly that you cannot eat goodwill, that a bank that never collects is just charity with a comb. She is right, in the ledger sense, but Werner also, you have noticed, carries a few margins of her own, and presses no harder than you do, because she has lived in this neighbourhood as long as you have, and the rules of the neighbourhood outrank the rules of the ledger when it comes to a woman in trouble. So the soft debts ride along beside the cash, year after year, mostly clearing, occasionally not, the price of running a shop in a place where everyone knows everyone, and no one is only a customer. You do the hair first and you settle the money whenever it settles, and some of it never settles at all, written off in the margin and in your heart on the same quiet day. It is not good business. It is something older than business, and it is part of why they stay, and why, when their luck turns back, they pay every cent and tip extra, and do not mention the months you carried them. The trade magazines arrive and inform you that everything you mastered is now slightly out of date. A new shape is sweeping in from the cities, taller and more sculptural than last year's, and your clients have already seen it and already want it. So you practice on a mannequin head after hours, teasing and pinning until you can build the thing on demand. The style will reign for a year or two and then be replaced by another, and you will learn that one too. Standing still is not a position this trade allows. You keep moving with the fashion or it leaves without you. The magazines are how the new shapes travel, and they travel fast. A stylist in Chicago invents something, a magazine photographs it, and within weeks women in your town are bringing the page to your chair, pointing, asking, wanting. You cannot say you do not know how. You cannot fall a year behind the cities and keep your clients, who read the same pages and expect you to have read them first. So you study the photographs the way you once studied for the licensing exam, working out from a flat picture how the thing is actually built. The latest arrival is the beehive, taller than anything before it, a smooth, conical and towering mass of backcombed hair that rises off the crown like a monument to gravity's defeat. They say a stylist in Chicago built the first one for a magazine, inspired, of all things, by a little velvet hat. And now every woman who has seen the page wants to wear a hat made of her own hair. It is an astonishing amount of structure to balance on one head, and it is exactly what is selling, so it is exactly what you must learn. The mannequin head is where you learn it, after hours, when the clients are gone and you can fail in private. Hers is a patient face, this practice head, staring blankly while you tease and pin and curse and brush it all out and start again, building the new shape badly, then less badly, then well. You cannot practice a brand new style on a paying client who wants the result and not the rehearsal, so you give the mannequin your evenings until your hands know the tower the way they know the bouffant, by feel, without thinking. It is humbling, in a way, to be good at your trade and still be a student in it, year after year, never quite finished learning. The girl with the broom thought there would come a day when she knew it all, every style mastered, the studying done. There is no such day. The fashion moves, and you move with it, forever a little bit the apprentice, no matter how many years you have stood at the chair. You have made peace with this too. A trade that stopped changing would be a trade slowly dying. A quiet skill the magazines never mention is translating the impossible page into the achievable head, the same translation you do with the movie star photos. The beehive in the magazine sits on a model with thick cooperative hair and a professional behind the camera. The beehive on Mrs. Somebody's fine flat hair needs adjusting, lowering, supporting, made real for a head that has to wear it to the grocery store and not just hold it for a photograph. You learn the style, and then you learn to make the style possible, which is the harder half. So you keep up, year after year, page after page, tower after tower. You build the new shape until it is old, then you build the next one, your hands forever learning while the clients believe you simply always knew. The mannequin head watches your evenings, blank and patient, as you stay one step ahead of the fashion so your clients never have to know there was a step to stay ahead of. The bell will ring tomorrow, and someone will bring a page, and you will already, quietly, know how. The last head is sprayed, the last client is gone, and the shop looks like a small storm passed through it, because one did. You sweep the day's hair into the familiar drifts, dark and fair and grey all mixed together on the floor. You wash the combs, refill the bottles, soak the brushes, restock the tray so tomorrow's first appointment finds everything where it belongs. The dryers tick as they cool. The mirrors hold the last of the light. You count the till, you flip the sign, and you give the quiet shop back to itself for the night. The closing is its own ritual as fixed as the opening, the day run in reverse. Where the morning was about waking the shop, the evening is about settling it, putting every tool back in its place, undoing the cheerful wreckage that a full day of beauty leaves behind. You move through it slowly now, the rush finally over, your feet aching but your mind quiet, the one stretch of the day that belongs to no one's appointment. The shop empties of voices and fills instead with the small sounds of you tidying. The sweeping comes first, and there is more hair than a stranger would believe, the day's clippings and combings drifting across the floor in soft piles. You sweep it into the familiar mounds, dark, fair, and grey and red, all mixed together, a strange democratic confetti of every head that sat in your chair today. There is something oddly final about it, gathering up what came off so many women into one anonymous pile, the leavings of the whole day swept into the pan and gone. The floor comes clean. The day comes to an end, at the end of a broom, the way it began. Then the tools, each return to readiness for tomorrow. You wash the combs and drop them in fresh disinfectant. You soak the brushes, wipe the scissors, refill the setting lotion and the shampoo, cap the sprays. You restock the wheeled tray, rollers sorted by size and colour, pins with their heads one way and points the other, exactly as Ruth taught you a lifetime ago. The habit so deep it has outlived the woman who drilled it into you. A shop ready at night is a calm morning tomorrow. You have learned to give the morning that gift. The dryers tick as they cool, the metal contracting, a sound you only ever hear in this quiet hour after the roar has stopped. The mirrors, fogged and spotted all day, hold the last grey light from the window, and the chairs sit empty and still, and the whole room seems to exhale along with you. You stand in it for a moment, the shop at rest, and you feel the particular satisfaction of a hard day finished and a clean room ready, the kind of plain accomplishment that does not announce itself but settles deep. Then the till, the small ceremony of the count, the coins and soft bills tallied under the last light, the measure of the day and money laid plainly out. Some nights it is fat and some nights it is thin, but the counting is the same, careful and quiet, the day reduced at last to a number you can hold. You set aside Werner's share, fold your own into your purse, and the arithmetic of the day is done, the standing and the smell and the listening all somehow turned into this small countable thing. Finally the lights, and the sign turned to face the other way, and the door locked behind you. You stand on the sidewalk a moment in the cooling evening, the shop dark and quiet behind the glass, ready and waiting for a tomorrow that is already fully booked. It is a good thing you have built, this clean and ordered little room where the neighbourhood comes to be made lovely, and you gave it back to itself tonight exactly as you found it this morning. You turn for home, your feet sore, your hands raw, your mind, for once, entirely at peace. You start to hear about a new kind of haircut, one that is supposed to fall back into shape on its own, no rollers, no set, no weekly hour under the hood. You hear about a small machine that dries a whole head at home in minutes. You do not panic, exactly, but you notice. The standing appointments are still full for now, the Saturday rush still fills the chairs, the perm still smells like rotten eggs and pays the rent. But something is shifting out past the window, and you have been in this trade long enough to feel the weather change before it arrives. The rumours come first, the way they always do, drifting in from the cities on the pages and in the talk. A stylist overseas, they say, is cutting hair so precisely that it falls into shape by itself. No setting, no spraying, just wash it and shake it and go. It sounds, frankly, like a threat aimed directly at your livelihood, because your whole living is built on hair that cannot do that, hair that needs you, weekly, to look right. A cut that needs no upkeep needs no operator. You understand the arithmetic immediately. Then the little machines, the handheld dryers that promise to do at home in minutes what your big hooded domes do in an hour. If a woman can wash and dry and shape her own hair at her own sink in the time it takes to make coffee, the reasoning goes, why would she give you 2 hours and a fee every single week? The hood dryer, that humming pastel monument that has anchored your whole working life, suddenly looks a little like a thing from the past, even sitting right there warm against the wall. Diane, young and modern, comes in already wearing one of the new cuts, and you study it with a professional's eye and a sinking feeling. It is good. You have to admit, it is good. It is sharp, clean, and infuriatingly good, and it does seem to fall right back into place when she shakes her head. No tower of backcombing, no shell of spray, no weekly pilgrimage to a chair. She does not need a standing appointment. She needs a good cut every couple of months. She is, you realize what is coming, sitting right there in your shop, being polite. There are other shifts too, harder to name, in how the young women hold themselves and what they want. They talk about jobs, about going out to work, about not having 2 free hours on a weekday to spend under a dryer reading about other people's lives. The world that made your trade, the world of women with weekday hours and a husband's office to send off and a slot every Thursday, is quietly loosening at the edges. You do not pretend it is not happening, because you have watched fashions die before, and you know the difference between a passing whim and a turning tide. This feels like a tide. Not this year, maybe not for several, but the weekly set that has filled your chairs and your book and your hands for a working lifetime is not going to fill them forever, and you can feel the slow leak beginning, One young woman with an easy cut at a time. The shop is still busy. The shop will not always be this busy. Both things are true. Still, you open tomorrow and the day after, because the standing appointments are full and miss us. Albright wants Thursday at 10, and the Saturday women still need their hair for church, and a tide takes years to come all the way in. You will set and comb and spray for as long as they keep coming, riding the good years you have left, and you will watch the weather change through the window without flinching from it. You built a life out of this humming, sweet-smelling room, and it served you and a whole neighbourhood well. You flip on the dryers, warm them up, and get ready for the regulars, who are, for now, still on their way. So that was your shift behind the chair. You opened before the birds, passed an exam to be allowed near a scalp, swept 1,000 drifts of someone else's hair, and built towers of curl on a hidden cushion no one was ever supposed to find. You wore the rotten egg smell of the perm like a second perfume, breathed a week of hairspray, kept a neighbourhood's worth of secrets, and stood the whole long day beside the one comfortable chair you were never allowed to use. It is easy to picture those salons as nothing but pastel and powder. But there were real women on those feet, with cracked hands and aching arches, turning chemistry and gossip and 8 unbroken hours into something that sent a customer back out the door feeling brand new. They held the street together one Thursday at a time, and they rarely got the credit for it. There was a strange kind of care in all of it. An hour under the dryer was an hour a tired woman got to sit down and be tended to, and the operator who knew her hair also knew her week. The set only lasted 7 days, but the small ritual of being looked after lasted a lot longer than that. Thank you for spending this quiet hour here with me. You have come a long way from that warm, humming, sweet-smelling shop, and there is nowhere left you need to be tonight. So let your shoulders drop. Let the day fade out, like the last cloud of spray settling in an empty room. Let your hands unclench and your feet finally rest. Close your eyes. Sleep well.